This year was Colorado's hottest winter on record. Because of an extremely light snowpack, our rivers are at an awful low. Denver is in a D1 drought, and I just had my first harvest of the year, leek and garlic that braved the cold. I pulled 10 gallons of weed from my neighbor's yard, and I prepared to plant Palestinian clover. I'm not sure it's the right decision, but goat heads make my yard unlivable, so I go for it. I watch my neighbor down the street water his buffalo grass yard that's bigger than my whole complex, and then some. He does this every day. This is an essay about living at the end of the world. Annie Jacobsen's book, Nuclear War: A Scenario, is an excruciatingly slow look at the end of civilization as we know it. In my opinion, this book is accessed best through audio, listening at one-time speed as Annie Jacobsen slowly tells you details, down to the second. How long it would take the US to know that a North Korean missile was launched, when we would know where it was headed, and most awfully, when the defenses fail, as Jacobsen is so clear to point out, is inevitable. I listened to this book with a pit in my stomach. There has to be some way to change the future, but the book isn't a close brush with nuclear war, and there's no way to change what is already in motion. I have that same feeling at the pit of my gut when I go about my everyday life. I understand that in 20 minutes I could be exploded, but climate collapse is on the way too. So is a police state that can come for me and my community. Nuclear war is full of history chapters detailing facts about how many nuclear weapons exist on Earth, tensions between countries, and defense mechanisms that just don't really exist. There's something to that tactic, you know? I'm waiting for the moment where the missile strikes or it doesn't. So much of this book is dedicated to the 20 minutes before, and I can't stand the wait. Get it over with and just kill me. Denver's quite near a few different Air Force hotspots, so every time we do something awful to another country, I watch helicopters, cargo planes, and even a drone once go by my head. At some point, the other shoe is gonna drop, and I'm supposed to plant strawberries in my backyard. I feel a lot of different things about the end. Of course, I feel pity for myself. Why am I the one who has to deal with all this? If only I was born 2 generations earlier, and I'd be some lawyer doing fine and living in 5 points just like my dad. Now I'm hearing about lawyers being required to use LLMs to cut down on billable hours. 2 neighborhoods over, a data center is being built that will use millions of gallons of water a day, and I was told not to water my seeds more than twice a week. I also feel an intense rage. Rich neighbors, data centers, golf courses, I am powerless to do anything in the face of capitalism, and I have dreams, like I'm sure most people, of making it big with my music or my big boy job or whatever, and getting my friends out, but the underlying issue is people are selling me and the rest of us poor folks out for cash. The Park Service was dismantled, Colorado's in a deficit despite making over $1 billion more than they need, and our governor is selling us out to the oil and gas industries. This isn't just a Colorado thing, obviously. Transgender people are at risk in so many states, infrastructure is crumbling, and it feels like the only thing we can do about it is kill a politician. In Minecraft, of course. But that wouldn't do anything, would it? We've all thought about it, but someone would just take their place. Whatever minority group you belong to would be demonized, or in the case of Kirk, they'd just make up a minority group you belong to and demonize them instead. The furries have had enough, you know? Just leave them alone. I feel like I'm standing out on a cliff, everyone behind me being pushed by the police line behind them. Everything is in slow motion, but I'm not quite falling yet. Yet. Like me, Scavenger Studios' game Season, A Letter to the Future, is obsessed with endings. Once, maybe twice a lifetime, Season's world goes through a large change. Once, the Earth all of a sudden is taken by war. In the next calamity, the next change of seasons as they call it, the soldiers are taken by sleep while the rest of the world is drowsy in its own right. This is the season our player finds herself in. In the sleepy little village, the player learns that the season is soon to change, so she sets out to document her world as it is now, before everything ends. Armed with a camera and an audio recorder, the player is set with the impossible task of figuring out what to document and what to leave behind. It's harder in the first bit, as you have no idea what the future holds or the effect the changing of the season will have on the world. Will old infrastructure stay intact? Cultures? People? You start the game taking pictures of everything. Audio recordings of the birds, the ocean, the music of your village. The way the player copes with the possible end of the world is to document and bring proof of life to a vault full of art and culture to be hid away until someone finds it and cares enough to read. The game feels more intense when you enter a valley that is set to be flooded the next day. While the fate of the entire world is unknown, the fate of this valley is clear: total destruction. You speak to the people who are coping with the loss of their homes, of their religion, of their livelihood. These pictures, you know, are the last to ever be taken in this valley. There's an acceptance in season that doesn't turn to apathy. The player stays connected with the people in her life. She lets herself care about those around her, even as a mass calamity is about to happen. The player's goal of documenting helps her understand the world at a deeper level, and even as she fails in her task to bring her notes to safety, she succeeds in understanding who she is, even after everyone loses her memory at the season's change. It's gonna take all fucking year with these private jets. Little bit of a pause. We're right next to a private airport, and there's private jets going by, and it's pissing me off. I am not the main character of season. I did not have this acceptance. When I traveled into the valley, the first thing I saw was a field of cows. You can pet these cows, they all have names, and they all will be dead in the morning. I wept when I saw these cows. I started to take solace in my documentation. Even if these ruins are destroyed, if these letters are lost, the evidence will be in my book for those who want to understand the time. Humans also seemed okay. They were actively moving out of danger. Many people survived the changing of the season, they just lost the information from before. Even the valley was being emptied of its important possessions by the residents. But these cows, they would graze and be washed away with the flood. Living beings, ones that can be moved with the right expertise, were abandoned to needlessly die. I started to understand in my heart that documentation was not the way to move forward. I took pictures, of course, but only of those things relating to me, of the kid who showed me around the valley, the artist who vented to me about her own work. But when it came to the little moments, I stopped pulling out the camera and recorder, and I just listened. The game seems to understand this shift in emotions. It starts to anticipate your want to live in the moment instead of putting it to tape, so it gives you the option to not record. An important choice for a game about historical posterity. I chose to put the recorder away at every moment I could. I record things in my life. I own a Zoom H4 and these things, and I have hours of recordings that I'll never listen to again. From impromptu musical projects to talking with my friends in the car. I always say it'll be for some project one day. I guess I'll use them here, so maybe I was right, but that's not the real reason I record. In my last essay, 3 Cool Uses of Found Footage, I talk about what a stupid title. In my last essay, 3 Cool Uses of Found Footage, I talk about the Blair Witch Project. For those of you who haven't seen Blair Witch, it's about a trio of filmmakers who get lost in some magic woods. And there's this scene as they get increasingly more panicked when they realize that one among them refuses to put the camera down. She's not recording for posterity, but because it's a blanket to protect her from the outside world. If you want more on that, go check the video out, I guess. But I feel a similar way with my Zoom. A moment can be saved for a time in which myself or someone else needs to access it. I have so much gossip, so much music, so much evangelical radio that I couldn't listen to it all if I tried. There's a tree in Seasons that is impossible to capture truly. Sitting at the base of the valley, it was the last project of a dying father. He healed this behemoth, built a workshop by its base, and cared for it until his own end. The father's son hopes for the tree to live, but the player understands that it will be washed away with everything else. The tree is large, complex, and its bark is beautiful and rich. Capturing it from far away negates its other side and its beauty up close. Unfortunately, capturing the little details found in the tree rejects its immense size. Not only will this tree be destroyed, but any means to capture it will inevitably fail. All there is to do is take it in, to see for yourself, and to understand it like nobody else can.
No emotion that I have ever felt, I have ever experienced in the same way again, which...
If you have never played Presentable Liberty, I need you to please put the video down and go play this thing straight through in a dark room without any distractions. It's free and incredible. Please? I hope I convinced at least one of you to play it, but if you decided that you were too good, I'll explain the basics. Almost the entirety of Presentable Liberty takes place in a prison cell. You are locked away in a small space with the only gameplay loop being the shitty mini-games you have on your knockoff Game Boy and reading the letters you get from friends and strangers alike. You may not respond, only watch as their lives unfold. As I'm sure you guessed, Presentable Liberty takes place at the end of the world. A disease that shuts down organs is ripping through the population, and all you can do is watch. The outside world becomes unlivable, and the people you grow attached to through these letters drop dead one by one. Charlotte is a baker going through something similar to you. While not in prison, the disease keeps her holed inside her shop as her friends, family, and neighbors die around her. Charlotte sends you letters to alleviate her isolation and begs for you to come see her. Of course, you're stuck in your cell with barely space to walk. Your games are getting stale, the letters come slower and slower. During this boredom, Charlotte decides that she's going to play music for you from the outside, a last-ditch attempt to connect with you. Your lack of response is heartbreaking. Soon, Charlotte's loneliness gets to her and she loses hope that you will ever meet her. Charlotte's last letter is covered in blood. This is a through line about stories at the inevitable end of the world: isolation and helplessness. Seasons solves this issue by letting the player leave the caring world to an uncaring one before finding community herself, but Presentable Liberty offers us the alternative when comfort in others cannot be found. This is where Presentable Liberty derives its horror. You get so many letters from so many people that it can get annoying, but as the game draws to a close, the people drop off and you are left to watch them make the mistakes that lead to their death. You are presented with a choice at the end of the game, one that really sticks with me. Your jailer wants to use you for your non-infected organs. He wants to cut you up and sell you off, but before then, he needs to keep you safe and entertained. When your best friend dies trying to turn the electricity off, you are left with nobody, so your jailer asks you to stay. He tells you how awful the outside world is, and you have the option to brave the world outside, one where you can find the dead body of Charlotte, or you can live in your cell for a while longer until you are killed. The cell is truly a fine choice. It's hard to live in the world as it collapses, and it might be nice to go somewhere structured where you'll be taken care of enough where you don't kill yourself before they can do it. Your choice is between controlled isolation and the empty unknown. I'm never sure whether my neighbors are out of the house. They're both constantly traveling or with family or just not on the same schedule as me. So when I see them, it's a nice surprise. I usually give them jam or soda bread and get a story in return. It's been months since this has happened. Today, I pulled another 30 gallons of weeds. The yard was like this before I moved here and isn't gonna stop without some elbow grease. I feel a little worried when I've been alone for so long that I'm committing some kind of faux pas when pulling the sharp weeds from the clay dirt. I know I'm doing a good thing by creating a yard that is usable without wasting water. The movement is clear. I know what to do, but the why is evading me, and I'm running on empty. Mad Max is a really interesting series. Its protagonist, Max Rockatansky, spends the first film not after the end of the world, But during its crash, in the collapse, police are restructured into what amounts to vigilantes. Okay, I guess it's not too far from our current system. Max, his wife, and his child live in the Australian outback as he tries to hold tight to the former structure of the world. The outback has no real laws. The police chases conducted add carnage, killing suspects, destroying property, and putting everyone in harm's way. Max clings to the broken policing system because it is what he knows how to do. Eventually, Max gets on the bad side of a ruthless biker gang rolling through, and he and his family take a vacation to alleviate the stress. Of course, Rockatansky runs into the gang again, and this time they kill his wife and his child. The finale is a classic revenge tale where Max murders the culprits in increasingly grotesque ways. Max finally lets go of the system that let the bikers loose, and he becomes the road warrior. The first film is strange, right? Like, Rockatansky tortures the gang, he murders them, and he ensures that they feel pain. For one character, he sets up a little saw trap, and it's wild. And even with the incredible vehicle stunts, I just feel a little weird about the takeaway. Isn't Max just as bad as those he's going after? Max finds himself at the end of the world with an immense feeling to fix it. Max's impulse to do things by the book destroys his family, isolates him, and sets in motion this deep sense of loneliness. Taken as a film in itself, it shows us Max dissolving under his circumstances. He's torn apart, and what we are left with is not the man we started with, the man who believed in the system, the man who thought that good can be done by doing the right thing. I was in DC recently for work. I somehow managed to talk to Lauren Boebert, the most disgusting pig of a politician we have in Colorado, and that is saying something. I made sure that if she was going to cut Medicaid, that she had to look at my friends and I in the eyes and tell us that we didn't matter. But if you've ever visited your politician, especially one as slimy as Boebert, you probably caught my little lie, didn't you? I didn't visit Boebert, I visited her staffer. I was told all my life that if I had a problem, I should go to DC and speak my mind, and I did, and I talked to a 23-year-old baby-faced slimeball who turned pink when he said he graduated from Full Sail University. So what is there to do but let yourself be destroyed when the system couldn't care less who you are or what it's doing to you, when fascists and murderers and rapists control your life? I completely understand Max's actions here, but as we see from the next film, they bring him no joy, and they do not in fact save the world. There's an easy conclusion to come to at World's End, that when it finally happens, we'll all be dead. No use worrying now if you're just going to be a corpse. Even at the end of Nuclear War, a scenario, Annie Jacobsen can't even bring herself to come to that conclusion. All she knows is that life will be harder and that life will change for everyone forever. That's a little hard to come to terms with, huh? This year I'm planting a little early. I have strawberries and leeks and potatoes and onions and garlic in the ground. I plan to plant clovers when I find the time. There's a chance it snows again, and a chance, even with me covering the ground, that the garden finds itself decimated. The clovers lost, the potatoes in a cloth pot, definitely the strawberries, but the leeks lasted the winter. They're fine. Not everything would be destroyed in my garden, which means that I might as well get started now to see what I can get out of it. I have to put in the work, don't I? When I wrote this part, I gathered my strength and did another 20 gallons of weeds. I'm closer than ever to just finishing my work to make a beautiful yard. Mad Max 2: The Road Warrior takes place after a definitive end. Gas has become extremely scarce and the bombs flew. The world has turned into a car-based dystopian hellscape, and we see that Max Rockatansky again is a broken husk of a man. He's accompanied by a dog he treats as a tool and a prisoner he takes. Max watches the rape and murder of citizens of a nearby town and only agrees to take one back in exchange for fuel. Max has become a product of his environment. He does nothing that doesn't serve him, and for that, he is alone and vulnerable. Max visits the town where they ask for his help, an offer he only chooses to take because he has no other option. Max is tasked with driving a tanker full of fuel through the desert past a gang of marauders and taking it to a promised land in the north. Max takes on the job, but decides to risk his own life to make sure it is done. The tanker that Max drives is a diversion full of sand, while the fuel is taken safely inside other vehicles. Max ends up alone again, but he put his life on the line for community along the way. Maybe I'm just projecting, but what I see in Max is a fake feeling of futility, bars. Joining up with a group at the end of the world won't accomplish much. It'll help you out, but when you've already lost everything and changed at the fabric of your being, what is there to help? Max starts the third movie in the same way as the second. He's broken, finds community, and then leaves again. It's a tragedy for Max. While he's doing great work, his own life can never be as good as those he helps. This is shown most clearly in the masterpiece that is Mad Max Fury Road. Fury Road isn't about Max this time. He's our deuteragonist, but the story is really about Furiosa and her convoy freeing her people and creating a new world. We start with Max alone and barely human. He's covered in a large matted beard eating a lizard. We don't see his face for much of the movie because he has ceased to be man. He's hunted by all the lives he never saved. Max is entirely his past. Rockatansky is captured by Immortan Joe's war boys, a cult of literal white supremacist macho bros who learned from birth to be nothing but fighters. The war boys take pride in death during battle and want that more than a victory. Immortan Joe is the leader of a large fortress called the Citadel, and the Citadel is full of food and water, but it is not distributed evenly, instead as a dirty waterfall that forces people to fight each other for basic resources. All the people under Joe are prisoners in some way. Max and the wives are literal prisoners. Furiosa was captured as a child, and the war boys are ideological prisoners. And the peasants are kept in the Citadel by the pitifully low amount of resources passed down to them. Furiosa's goal is to transport Immortan Joe's kidnapped wives to her home, only to learn that it is not what it once was. The only thing they can do now is face the problem head on and make the Citadel a better place for everyone. The crew, consisting of Max, Furiosa, the remaining wives, the many mothers, and the war boy who is learning to be his own human, race back to the Citadel, kill Immortan Joe, and release the water to everyone before Max flees yet again. The change in angle from Max to Furiosa is important here. While Max continues to spiral, Furiosa, who has been through a lot of similar situations, works to build community. She stays and helps the people around her, extends empathy to the child war boys who are left in the Citadel, and plans to build a new society in spite of the hand that they were all dealt. It may be easiest to look at impending climate disaster, a corrupt and violent government, war, and the destruction of a safety net as the end. And for so many, it has been. But a new, just society needs creation. We need to plant seeds we want to see grow, water and protect them, even though some may be hurt. Because apathy, an obsession with keeping everything the same, and loneliness is what keeps us stuck. Reach out to those around you, offer jam and bread and coffee, and understand each other's needs. Max falls apart because he is in deep isolation, and Furiosa thrives through her connection to herself, her community, her past, and her future. There's this moment in season towards the end after the player has talked to everyone where they all eat dinner on a makeshift table together before leaving to pursue their own paths outside of the valley. In a serene moment where you can see all of your work helping those in the valley pay off. There's this feeling when you hold a camera and an audio recorder where you feel like a documentarian instead of a member of the community. But the player in season never forgets her roots. She aids all of the characters when they need it, and in return she gets a contemplative dinner with her new friends. It's not easy to help others. Today I finished with my weeds in the neighbor's yard, and I replaced it with another weed, one that will allow her to walk in her own yard with bare feet. But my yard is connected to hers, and hers to another, and another after that, and I haven't done theirs yet. I only have so much time and energy to give, but the clovers will grow and help with the rest of the yard in the future. There's no way to get rid of the rage, isolation, and melancholy felt at the end of the world, not one that doesn't require an addiction that I can't afford. The world probably won't end tomorrow. It could, but it's far more likely that things continue to get worse over time. It's the hottest winter in Colorado's history, but only after a string of obscenely hot winters, and hot winters aren't just gonna kill us off, but they're gonna make life harder. It's a fantasy that everyone dies and we just don't exist anymore, because it's much harder to survive in a dying world than be a corpse in a dead one. But you have people you care about, and no matter who you are, you have people that care about you, and you have an obligation to not fall apart at the end of the world.
Storage on your phone.
I feel like we leave it so that it's like empty. So that we could have the credits running.